just a second here.
Yes. Julie's here. Karen Zarsadiaz-Ige.
Here.
Bill Stewart is not here. Trish Gonzalez.
Here.
Chris Lancer.
Here.
Joseph Wong.
Here.
Jay Dixit.
She's going to not be here.
Oh, that's right. Bruce Crickshank.
He's here.
He was here. Okay. Richard Centeno.
I'm here, Erica.
Hi, Richard.
Good.
Sam Yee.
You.
Hi, Sam. Tina
Hey.
is gonna be here. Philip Loy.
I'm here, Erica.
Hi, Philip. And Pretty Subramaniam.
There she goes.
Hi, Pretty. I see you. Okay, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome everyone. Let us take a look at today's agenda. I know we need to make one addition to it. Do we need to add
the E1, please?
the E1? Is that correct? Okay.
E3? I'm sorry, it's the E3.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was my bad.
That's okay.
It is hard to keep track of those letters and numbers, I tell you. Okay. All right. So then I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda as amended to include discussion of the E3.
I'll make that motion.
I saw Philip's hand. I'm going to take Philip first on that one. Trish, did you want to get in there on the second?
I'll take the second.
Okay. Thank you so much. Do we have any discussion on that? All right, all in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you. Motion carries. All right, do we have any public comment tonight?
Yes, we have Mr. Carl Argila.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Argila. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Erica. Can you give me my usual audio check? Let me know that I am audible.
Yes, sir. You're good to go.
That is great, thanks. Good evening again, board. As you know, my name is Carl Argila. I am the father of Cavan Argila, an intellectually disabled deaf client of the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. And as usual, tonight's board meeting, including my comments, are being recorded under the provisions of the Bagley-Keene Act and will be posted for public review on my blog at www.sgprc.net, and I've posted the URL in chat. Before I get on with my comments, I would just like to mention very briefly, board, that we had an annual IPP review meeting for my son, Gerardo Argila, today. And I want to continue to express my thanks and appreciation to Jesse Romero and Sylvia Minot for conducting my son, Gerardo's case in a very professional, competent, capable, admirable manner. That all SGPRC cases were handled that way. But of course, that hasn't been past history. So once again, this evening, I am requesting that you terminate your conservatorship of my son, Cavan Argila. And as you know, your agency has filed a declaration with probate court opposing my petition to terminate your conservatorship of my son. You have placed my son, Cavan Argila, in a group home against his will. Did you hear me, board? Involuntarily placing my son in a group home against his will. How can you allow that to happen to one of your clients? Over the years, Ms. Chetney, you've had a reputation for seeking the best for your son. How do you feel about my son being confined against his will in one of your group homes? Recently, as you know, the Department of Developmental Services has issued guidelines to mitigate conflicts for delegated conservatorships. Those guidelines include providing a pathway out of conservatorship for clients who do not want to be conserved. I brought this to your attention last month, Board. There was even an IPP meeting conducted for my son, Cavan, since I spoke with you last. We still have no pathway identified. So, Board, do your job and assure that your agency complies with DDS's guidelines regarding my son's, Cavan's, conservatorship. Any parent hearing my voice tonight should take note of this. No matter how consumer-friendly the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center may appear to be, no matter how broad Miss Chetney smiles, the fact is that they have the power to become your child's conservator and ruin your life. Finally, I am requesting that the official minutes of this board meeting accurately state that I am requesting that the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center terminate their conservatorship of my son, Cavan Argila. Thank you again, Board, for your time.
Thank you. Okay. We are going to move on to our consent agenda. And we are going to take a look at the minutes from our August 28 meeting. It's in your board packet. All board members should have had a chance to review that. Do we have a motion? Never mind. Name to myself. So, do we have any discussion with regards to those minutes? Okay, not hearing or seeing anything. We're going to go on to the review of the Regional Center contract, the A1, with Dara, please.
Good evening, President Chetney, members of the board, Regional Center staff, DDS, and members of the community. Tonight, I will be presenting the 24-25. I'm going to share my screen. One moment, please. Erica, could you give me permission to share?
You have permission, Adara. You should be able to share.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your patience. Okay. Tonight I'll be presenting the 24-25 A1 contract. These documents can be found in your meeting materials for tonight's meeting, but I'd like to focus on the budget summary. This is for operations. This portion up here is for operations and purchase of service, which is down here. Right here. This contract, this language in this contract speaks about the policy items that were not included in the A1 preliminary contract that I have shown you, I think about a month or two ago. So we're showing here in total operations about 56 million, and in purchase of service 478 million. And this includes HCBS compliance. It includes funding for caseload ratios, language access, and cultural competency, social access and equity, and other policy items. Does anyone have any questions regarding the A1? And again, those materials and the details are listed in tonight's meeting minutes. Stop sharing my screen. if there are no other questions regarding the A1, I kindly request for your consideration to approve the signing of this contract.
All right. Do we have any questions for Dara? We're going to do everything will get passed with one motion, but any questions for Dara with regards to the A1 contract? Okay. All right. Are you going to go on to the E3?
Yes, and so let me share my screen one more time. And now I am presenting to you the E3. And what the E3 is any funding that was not included in the E, now I'm mixing up my numbers, not included in the E1 or the E2 amendment. And so what items were not included were items such as maybe they were not fully funded in those other two amendments, or additional funding was provided. And so these items would cover the language access and cultural competency or other miscellaneous funds, again, not included in the E1 or the E2. Does anyone have any questions regarding the E3 contract? Stop sharing my screen. And if there are no other questions, I kindly request the approval for both the A1 and the E3 contract approvals.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so we will move on to talk then about, we'll look at the review of the different contracts. We'll start off, Hortensia, you are listed first on our agenda tonight.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Board President Chetney, members of the board, the community, DDS, and Regional Center staff. I have two contracts to present tonight. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the one from Ubuntu Psychological Services, which is in your packet. And this contract is for interdisciplinary assessment services, which supports us in the intake department with assessments for individuals who are coming into our system, as well as any of those who require any specialized type of assessment service. And this company has a specialization working with assessments of individuals who are forensically involved, anyone who is in the judicial system, and specifically for individuals who are ages 8 and over. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of those questions before I move on to the next contract.
Board members, just a reminder that all contracts, and I should have said this before, all contracts presented tonight have previously been presented and discussed at the Executive Finance Committee meeting earlier this month. So those committee members did ask a whole bunch of questions and voted and approved these contracts to then come to the full board for the approval. So we didn't approve the contracts. We said, yes, these look good. Let's take them to the full board. And so now we're taking a look at them as the full board to then approve by consent. So this is the first one. Any particular questions with regard to Ubuntu Psychological? All right, let's go on to the second one.
Thank you. Okay, so the next contract is with Clarity Psychological Corp under Dr. Bell Culkin. And we're happy to say that this company is able to support with all ages of development. So individuals of all ages get to be assessed in our intake department. And the neat thing about this is that we have the opportunity to bring additional psychologists and people who are working towards licensure under the supervision of a licensed clinical psychologist. And that opens up more opportunities for more assessments so that we don't have a waiting list in the intake department. And I would kindly like to ask for your consideration for full approval of this contract as well. Any questions?
Any questions about this particular contract? More psychologists equals good things for Regional Center. All right. Okay, so those are the two clinical contracts. We're going to move on to Tim and his contracts.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening, President Chutney, members of the board, community members, DDS, and regional center staff. I'd like to present 5 service agreements this evening in the order listed in this evening's agenda for the board's consideration. The first 2 service agreements are for transportation as an additional component to a day program and transportation aid. The first service agreement is with Vocational Innovations South Incorporated. Vocational Innovations has been providing day program services to individuals served by SGPRC since 2017. They also provide similar services to individuals served by 3 other surrounding regional centers. They currently have 3 day programs with San Pomona Regional Center. The transportation services as additional component in transportation aid that is the subject of this agreement supports individuals that attend their center-based day programs. Individuals served by this program could be from state developmental centers or other institutionalized settings. These individuals reside in community crisis homes, enhanced behavioral service homes, specialized homes, and therefore need that specialized transportation to get to and from their program when they are in, and also when they are in the community doing activities. The transportation services are provided by employees of the program, and the transportation aid supports individuals during their transit. This particular provider currently transports 34 individuals, 1 that uses a wheelchair, and 3 individuals that need to have a transportation aid due to their behavioral needs. So I'd like to pause to ask the board if they have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions regarding this particular transportation contract? Okay. All right.
All right, thank you. The second service agreement is with OPARC. OPARC is licensed by Community Care Licensing as an adult day program. They opened in 2010 and were developed specifically with community placement plan funds from fiscal year 2008 and 2009 to meet the needs of individuals that were moving from a Lanterman Developmental Center. Individuals attending OPARC have previously lived in state developmental centers or other institutionalized settings and currently live in specialized settings. The vendor provides curb-to-curb transportation services from their home to the day program and work activity program, and then back to their home. A vendor is currently providing services to 45 individuals, 1 of which uses a wheelchair. This contract also includes funding for a conditional fuel stipend, which was approved by the Department of Developmental Services last year. So I'd like to pause and ask if the board has any questions.
Any questions for Tim? All right. Getting off easy so far.
Okay. The next 3 service agreements are for specialized residential facilities. They serve adults ages 18 and older who are served by a regional center and are diagnosed with an intellectual and or developmental disability and may have a Axis 1 mental health diagnosis. The third service agreement is for HASU, Compassionate Care. They have been providing services and supports to individuals served by San Pomona Regional Center since 2020. In addition to the criteria mentioned earlier, individuals referred to this particular home will have severe self-care deficits, severe behavioral challenges, and sensory impairments such as a hearing impairment. These individuals may also have a history or are currently forensically involved. So due to those behavioral needs, individuals in the home have enhanced staffing and behavioral supports. This home is also licensed by Community Care Licensing and is serving 4 individuals. So I'd like to ask the board and pause if they have any questions.
Any questions about this home? All right.
Okay. The 4th and 5th service agreements are with Easter Seals of Southern California for their Kirkwood and their Prospero homes, respectively. Both homes were developed using community placement plan funds from fiscal year 2009 and 2010. The individuals that moved into these homes and are currently living in these homes moved from Lanterman Developmental Center. Due to the health and behavioral needs of these individuals, both homes have enhanced staffing, nursing consultants, and enhanced behavioral supports. Both homes are licensed by Community Care Licensing as adult residential facilities and currently serve 4 individuals each in each one of the homes. So again, I'd like to pause and ask the board if they have any questions about these 2 agreements or any of the other agreements I've presented.
Anybody? Okay. All right. And final one.
Nope, that is it. I combined,
you lumped them
yeah, President Chutney, because they were both with the same provider. They're just 2
Got it.
homes that are both the same, developed at the same time to meet those needs of those individuals who are
Right.
coming out of the developmental center.
You're absolutely right. All right. Okay. So to recap, we are in one consent agenda. We have got our minutes from our last meeting. We've got the regional center contract A1, their contract A3, and then all of the 2 contracts for clinical, and then the 5 different ones for Tim. Do we have a motion to accept all as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Karen. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Oh,
Wow. Okay, Erica, your pick. I saw 3 hands at the same time.
3 hands.
3 hands at the same time. All right. Any final questions regarding any of these items? Not hearing or seeing any. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. Okay, wonderful. Okay, we're gonna move right along and talk a little bit with our committee chairs for our different advisory committees. Karen, the Community Relations Legislative Advisory Committee.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good evening, President Chutney and everyone here at the meeting tonight. It's good to see everyone. We met actually on September 11th. That was about 2 weeks ago. And we were able to hear some updates from our executive director, Jesse Weller, statewide local updates on the master plan and his involvement on the work group number 1 that is meeting about the master plan, obviously. AB 1147, he gave us an update on that. SB 1281 also gave us a little bit of an update on how the golf tournament went and how that was a huge success. And also a debrief on the vendor fair and the job. There was also information about the upcoming job fair that was happening, and I'm sure there's going to be more information about that today. Other than that, we also heard from our community outreach team, and it was a really quick meeting about it, but they went over the ASL classes and how successful those were, and that there is interest in expanding that and making sure that that continues on. Registration was just like off the chain, I guess you could say. I don't even know if is that a term that people still use? I don't even know. Really popular. You can tell I'm like Gen X. Anyway, deaf parent support group also meeting. They gave us information about that. And really just, it was a great meeting. We got to really learn what's going on just legislatively and out there in the community. And I will pass it back to you, President Chutney.
Thank you. Thank you. Hope everything's working out nicely on the second Wednesday of the month now for that committee. Right. Okay, so let's take a look at our advisory committee for individuals served and their families. Philip, how was your committee meeting?
Actually, it was pretty good, President Julie.
Good.
It was good.
I'm so glad to hear that. Do you or anyone else want to add a little bit more to tell us kind of maybe what was talked about?
We had a presentation. I'll take it. Philip, that's okay. We had a presentation about
Your presentation on behavioral.
on behavior services, and it was a very high level, informative presentation. If anyone has questions, we can make that presentation available for anyone who's interested. Just let me know or let Philip know. And we'll have that presentation slide deck
Wonderful.
for you.
Okay, thank you. I'm really glad to hear it was so informative.
Yes.
Thank you, Preeti. And thank you, Philip. Moving on to our vendor advisory committee, Chris.
Thank you, President Chetney, and good evening to everyone present tonight. Our last vendor advisory committee meeting was held on September 5th, and we had an excellent meeting and discussion of many topics. Some of the most pressing concerns for vendors still are regarding some concerns over confusion on insurance issues. Mr. Weller, as well as Lucina Galarza, are actively working to get those situations resolved with the vendors and the vendor community, along with the insurance representatives, to make sure that those insurance issues are taken care of and complied with among the vendor community, as well as some different clarifications regarding service codes and differences in service codes, some funding and rate change concerns regarding service codes, and how vendors can change service codes and how to do those, with some different service codes either being phased out or not receiving different rate changes in the future. Additionally, the residential subcommittee is going to be meeting with the I'm looking for the specifics on that. My notes have now gotten out of order. The residential services manager and the placement coordinator on a regular basis in order to facilitate more effective placements in the residential services, both to assist the residential providers in maintaining their placements and to ease the placement process for the regional centers as well. So we're hoping that that becomes a good collaboration between vendors and the regional center on an ongoing basis. There's also been a discussion regarding the vendor advisory committee collaborating with the community services department and possibly putting together flyers or a presentation that we can present to the new vendors so they can really begin to understand what the vendor advisory committee is, and how it can benefit them, and moving forward to really gain some more traction in the committee. We're finally getting close to having a full committee. We're currently 2 seats down. One we're hoping to fill at our next meeting on October 3rd, which would leave us about 1 open seat, which is about as big as close to a full committee as we've had in quite some time. But we're hesitant because we have a lot of people that term off very quickly and often leave a lot of spaces open. So we're hoping to motivate a lot of traction to continue that. And those are the updates for the vendor advisory committee. Our next meeting will be held on October 3rd, on next Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you. How many do you still have vacancies at this time?
There are 2 currently. We're hoping to fill 1 on next Thursday. And then we'll only have 1 vacancy open.
Anything to help support you?
I'm sorry?
there anything the board can do to help support, some of the engagement with some of the vendors? Like, I don't know, I'm just throwing an idea out there.
I'm not certain if there's anything specific that the board can do to support. I can say from a vendor aspect, it's difficult because you have your day-to-day business and you're focused on that, and then you also have your relationship with the regional center, and sometimes kind of mixing those two in this vendor advisory committee, you'll be involved for a short period of time and then things get busy and they go by the wayside, and trying to maintain active participation for an extended period of time. There's a core group that have been participating for a long time. But getting more new vendors or getting vendors that come in and then drop off for long periods of time, getting them to maintain consistency is it's a very difficult task. And I think to really get new important information during COVID, the numbers skyrocketed and everybody wanted the information and was hungry. And now that a lot of those pressing concerns have gone by the wayside, it's not as important for many people. So I think it's also a good thing that we don't have a lot of major concerns. So it's a double-edged sword. Bruce, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. What are the issues with insurance? Does this have to do with the regional center requirements of certain types of insurance that the vendors keep, or limits of insurance?
Yeah, Jesse.
Want me to? Okay.
Yeah,
absolutely.
thank you.
A few months ago, we made a business decision to use our insurance broker, Gallagher, just like other regional centers have done, to help manage the increase in insurance upkeep. As you can imagine, with the amount of vendors that we have a process that we have managed internally for quite some time on ensuring that we get updated information. As we switched over to Gallagher, there's been some hiccups in the process to really understand if providers are at the proper levels of coverage as set by the Board of Directors, all of you, as our board policy, and also some of the nuances as it relates to some programs that are very nuanced. And so there's some that have some questions that get raised in the process that Lucina has to do some review, create some exceptions for. And so we've been working on just some logistics. They're temporary things. It's just some of the growing pains of going through more automated processes. But it's a really good thing for us as an organization, given the fact that it does ensure that providers are protected. And if there's anything in there that's missing, it can be caught a little bit more efficiently when we get that feedback. And then there's other things that providers are doing very well and did everything just like they're supposed to, that Lucina is having to clear and clarify on our end. So most regional centers will be moving towards this model just to manage the upkeep, but we're still in some of those hiccups. But it's been pretty vocal at our vendor advisory committee, not from everybody, but from quite a few that are just having some challenges. And so we're continuing to work through that. I would say, Chris, as we navigate, and then our message, in case there's providers here or any other providers can carry this message forward, that if there's anything specific for a provider that's causing challenges, it's really helpful for us to know exactly what that is, because there's so many different possibilities of what's occurring that we really need that specific example to look into and troubleshoot. And several of the things that came forward have already been addressed. So we're just still working out some of the nuances. Lucina, did I go off tracks anywhere with my response?
No, it's just that we have insurance risk profiles, and sometimes we have to make exceptions because we can't put into our risk profile every exception for providers. For example, if you provide a service in-home, you might not need to have auto insurance because you don't transport individuals, whereas another category may have to have it. And so we're having to navigate a lot of details. because Gallagher Verify has a lot more staff and experts in insurance. That's not our expertise, right? And so we're relying on them to assist us to determine whether people have the minimum requirements that we have set in policy.
So, say somebody doesn't have an auto exposure, they don't own any autos, you don't insist that they carry auto, just non-owned auto type of thing.
Correct. So like if you're residential, you would have probably, I forgot what it's called. Not select, but there's another word where it's the owner owns the vehicle, but they don't allow staff. And so we have to say, okay, waive the non-owned vehicles because the staff don't transport. So we have to do specific waivers for vendors. Whereas Gallagher may say you have a deficiency, and then I have to go back and say, oh, no, that's a sole proprietor. We don't need workers' comp. Waive that. And so we have to do a lot of individual waivers.
Oh, that's good. So you're more flexible.
Yeah, we are.
Good.
And I will add from speaking for the vendors that San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center has done, I think, an excellent job at doing those and really managing those hiccups that Jesse has spoken about. But also speaking for the vendor community, we as a community can be very hard-headed sometimes when it comes to changes that are global of that nature. So it can be very hard, and also knowing that as vendors, we are a very diverse group of people and a very diverse group of providers providing different services. So it is a very large undertaking. So I applaud Regional Center for doing this, and especially for handling each of the instances as they come up.
Yeah. Good.
So that is it for the Vendor Advisor Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our Strategic Development Advisory Committee with our chair, Bruce.
Yes, today we had three very lively and animated discussions about three various topics. First had to do with the problem of chronic absenteeism among committee and board members and how we're going to handle that. There is in the board bylaws a bylaw that says that if one misses 3 meetings in a row or 4 meetings in a fiscal year, that person is automatically resigned. There was an argument made that we should be a little bit more sympathetic to what people might be going through in their individual lives. So we didn't get that resolved, but it's a good discussion. I always like it when there are disagreements, differing points of view, and there were in this one. The next had to do with updates that Jesse gave us on the evolution of the strategic plan. We're working to develop key performance indicators, and I should say when I use that term, the key performance indicator is a quantifiable measure that helps us evaluate the progress of the plan throughout the year and assess, most importantly, how close we are to achieving our goals. And Jesse has started working the plan, started working implementing the plan, and has re-engaged with Michelle Ware, our consultant, and George Stevens, our other consultant, to give us some more guidance as to how we can fully implement the plan. And we're making good progress. It's really gratifying. The last was an interview we had with a board aspirant, Adriana Pinedo, who is on the Community Relations Committee. Adriana was really impressive. She impressed all of us with her enthusiasm, her motivation. She's just at that level of perfection of a board member where you come in and you're ready to go, you're ready to tear it up. And I think that's something that I love to see, and I hope that that can be sustained. And it's something I'd like to see the board work on, how we retain people and how we sustain motivation of board members. We all agree that she would make a superb board member, and we'll be submitting her for approval next month. That's it for me.
Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, we're going to go on to my report. Okay. So we talked at our executive finance committee earlier this month a little bit about the ARCA Academy opportunity that many of us attended, and hopefully we'll have another one very soon. For all regional center boards. So all board members from 21 regional centers are invited. It's put on by ARCA, of course, essentially the trade association for all of regional centers. And it was really amazing. It was that super stinky hot weekend. Remember that one where my car read 117 that weekend? But basically, I think there were a few key takeaways, and I have to put it on my agenda to make sure that the PDF of slide decks of all of the presentations go out to board members. But I think one of the biggest things, the takeaways, and you're going to probably hear me say it a couple of different times over the next fiscal year, is the idea and remembering that as a board, what our actual role is. And our role is that we are eyes in, but we're hands out, right? We don't have responsibility for what is going on day to day in the regional center. That's under Jesse's jurisdiction, and rightly so. We as a board, we have one employee, and that is Jesse. So everything that I am doing now, I kind of look through that lens. And I'm going to do my very best to guide the board to do the same as we're proceeding through our different advisory committee and board meetings. So once again, ARCA, just for everyone to remember, it's an association of all 21 regional centers, and it's made up of, its board is all of the executive directors, and then a board delegate from each regional center. And together as that board, we set the directives for what ARCA is then going to do on behalf of the entire regional center system, be it legislative engagement, testifying at hearings, watching all of the pieces of legislation that are coming down the pipe, advocating for our system for individuals served, over 450,000 now in the state, which is mind-boggling. They handle a lot of media requests, and there's been a lot of them actually in the last little while regarding this system. So they do a lot of those pieces, and of course there's a lot of federal government engagement as well. So that's really what ARCA does. And the other piece is to really be a support for the regional center boards, for us. And so I will, like I said, I'm going to put it on my to-do list to push out. It's a PDF, it's a big PDF of all of the different slide decks from the different presentations that were presented at this 2-day event. I know we had Preeti there, and I hope I don't forget anybody. So we had Preeti there. We had Bruce there. Chris, you were there. Jay was there. Am I forgetting anybody? Sam? You were there? It was really a wonderful.
Yeah, but I had a comment. And I know I take it right, but why should you about August? Did you have crying on the football of the white flag
Arca, I'm getting.
If they don't have clients on the football.
Somebody. I wish I was able to.
Why?
He's saying, why should he tell?
Tell.
C-A.
R-E-L.
Count.
T-E-R-E.
Tell.
T-E-R-E.
Why should you?
Why should you care?
Yeah. About other. If they do allow clients on the football.
Why? So you're concerned that there aren't clients on the full board?
Yeah.
There are clients on the board. I can't quantify. Jesse, can you help me quantify?
I have to look at the roster. We do have representation. And I think, Sam, you're reminding me of the advocacy connection back to ARCA of what getting it back to the executive committee, I believe, on increasing or having that conversation around increasing individual served participation. So timely, we have the next ARCA, Sam, is in October coming up in San Diego. So Julie and I can have conversations there at ARCA with that as well. More than happy to do so. But there is representation, but I always believe we can be doing more as a system and association.
There's definitely room for improvement. I'll tell you that. There's definitely room for improvement in terms of the number of board delegates. But I know off by hand, there's at least 3.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I don't know everyone by name, to be honest with you, but I do know that it's a big group, but there are, like Tracy Mensch is there from Kern, Joshua from Inland. I can't remember the individual's name now from, he's from Tri-Counties, Jesse.
I was thinking of far northern,
Andreas.
I have to look at the roster. What I know, Sam, I need to coordinate a meeting with you. Sam, what I can do is I can go over the roster with you if you like, and we can have a little bit further discussion.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. Okay.
Absolutely. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much my report, because Jesse, you're going to be touching on a couple of other things that have come up in some of those statewide discussions.
All right. My turn. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Are you ready for me, Julie? I just started moving over. Okay, nice to see everybody. Good evening. And I thank you, Sam, for making space. It's always good to keep pushing us and to keep reminding us of individuals served in those perspectives. And so I appreciate it. And I think we all do, to make sure that we're all continuing those conversations, because that's exactly why we're all here. So I appreciate it. For this evening, I'll share my screen for my report. Can everybody see okay? I think I'm sharing. I think I got it.
Yes, you're good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I jumped to September 25, 2025. I jumped a year ahead. So I think I caught my 2024s correctly. So I do that sometimes. I jump ahead. I don't read this every board meeting, just in the interest of time, but I think it's important to ground us in the work that we've done collectively this year, especially as we talked about strategic planning and our mission, which is to collaborate, advocate, and support individuals with developmental disabilities and their families, ensuring that every person enjoys a life of meaningful opportunities and inclusion. So I think this is at the forefront of why we do what we do every single day. So I always like to bring that to keep it fresh for everybody. Lots of great work happening at the state level. The master plan on developmental services, as you know, lots of committee work going on in addition to the 5 work groups. The committee just met recently, the full committee. I believe this is their 6th one. And I wanted to highlight that there is just a lot of good discussions about the future of our service system. There is a lot of focus on areas of improvement. There are areas that are specifically came up in public comment around what we can do when there is inconsistency between the services that are available between different regional centers. Areas where families may experience a denial of services and what those alternatives look like, and how are we helping support families when we're not able to offer a particular service. Looking at areas of what we can do as it relates to individuals across the lifespan and aging caregivers taking care of their children and supports needed, and also looking at long-term care, transition plans, affordable housing, and a lot of themes just related to different barriers and challenges people have had. And the most recent committee meeting had a particular focus. You may hear this out there floating. There is a particular interest in public comment to open a 22nd regional center, to open an additional regional center as like a pilot program that would pretty much be all self-determination or self-determination-like as a pilot in an effort to reduce disparities and challenges experienced at other centers. So that's just an idea. I'm just sharing that today because it keeps coming up quite frequently, to know that there is an ask for that out there, and I don't know where that lands. There's also some feedback coming in asking for any recommendation that comes forward, because all of this will be leading to a final report when this process is done that will make its way to the California Health and Human Services desk, ultimately to the governor's office. And so people are asking if I'm participating and if I'm going to give ideas and recommendations and I'm going to take the time to do this, what's going to happen with that? Will I hear back? Will I get a response? Will it be considered? So some of that is coming up as well, which I think is a fair question. So in your materials, you'll have the dates coming up outlined. I highly encourage everybody to attend. There's always important meetings, but this in particular, when it's talking about the next 10 years for us in our system, it's really helpful to have your voice heard, your input given through public comment, and just to listen to hear what's happening through the work happening, because this will be for us to have part of our transformation and our future of what we look like as a service system. So you'll have your dates in here from October all the way up to March 12th, with the due date in Welfare Institution Code, having the plan completed by April 2025. So a lot of work between now and April. Quick reminder in here, and I mentioned this at our last board meeting, but just in case anybody wasn't able to attend, there has been an acting director appointment of Pete Cervinka, who is the director of the department, acting director at this moment. And you can have access to his bio if you want to read more about Pete and his role. And then Michi Gates, who I've talked about before, who has taken the chief deputy director position, appointed by the governor, most recently serving as the executive director at Kern Regional Center. And she's been in her role for a few weeks. So just like to keep you updated on key leadership positions at the state. I think it's important for everybody to be aware of, and a little bit of their background and experience. Lots of exciting stuff happening at the state as well. There is something called a comprehensive dashboard that just went live. I put lives, that's an extra S there, goes live on DDS website. It's active now, and at the bottom you can click on the link. It will take you to this dashboard. There is already available data out there on the DDS website and our website for transparency. So there's so much existing data on purchase of service that has been there for quite some time. What is different about this dashboard is that it's going back to 2011. And instead of just getting a annual report worth of data, only 1 year at a time, it will group by month and do aggregate data at a deeper level than what's been available prior. So I recommend people to kind of play with it. There's still some kinks that have been reported to the department, but they're actively working on that. And you'll see some descriptions in here, very technical, but I pulled out a few pieces that I think are very helpful for people to be aware of what you can search for and what you can look at. So it's just taking data around each regional center and their expenditures to a deeper dive, where you can look at regional center by age, you can choose race and ethnicity and language, residence type. You are only allowed to choose 2 filters at a time. It was designed on purpose that way, which is to help protect sensitivity and confidentiality of certain kind of data elements. So that has gone live. More information to come on that as well. I saw a chat come in. Let me see.
That was me. I put the link to it, but it seems glitchy right now. I'm just getting that little spinny wheels.
Okay, I had it working for a little bit, and then mine went blank earlier. So
no,
the power.
They have a lot of traffic on there. Who knows?
A lot of interest in this data, but it's another good example of the department moving towards a very more transparency for the community for data available. Very exciting times at the regional center as well. There is a new IPP template that is going to be required for all regional centers to implement January 1st, 2025. So that new plan is available. You can see a snapshot of what those fields will look like. And the department also created a guide called Your Plan. And this guide is to help individuals, families, anybody in the community interested of really walking through the entire program planning process. And so there's a link in here that's been made available to the public. It'll be available in multiple languages. It's on its way. Right now, regional centers across the state are getting trained by the department. We're getting trained on how to use the new template. We're getting trained and giving tools and resources. And then in the back end, we're working closely as a system with our computer system called Sandus. For Sandus, which is very antiquated from the 1980s. We're working with a very antiquated system for that to be populated in a way that will be user-friendly for all the 21 centers ready to go. So there's this front-facing work being done on training, and there's also this back-end work for technology behind the scenes to get ready, which was in trailer bill language, which was to create more consistency across all 21 regional centers. That regardless of your zip code or your address, that you will see a template, part of our core business, the individual program plan that looks very consistent and the same no matter where you move to or where you go. More transparency, more consistency in our service system. Quick update on the provider directory. I want everyone to be aware that there is a provider directory that is being built and validated. You'll see that there's many phases of it. What will happen eventually is that will be an online portal for members of the public to have access to, and it will show families and individuals served what services are available or what they may need in their particular area. And you see some information here. It gets a little technical towards the end, but this very last bullet point that you see is what service providers have been asked and who are currently being asked to complete. In order to have a good portal with good data, we got to make sure that we have good information input from the beginning. And there was a lot of challenges throughout the state on getting good information on just the amount of providers, as you can imagine, getting a validated tax information, emails that are current, phone numbers that are current, controlling interest, depending on how the business is set up. So it's been a big journey, so big that the department had to retain contractors to help with this. So the implementation has been a little slowed, still progressing, but you'll see that there is a newer deadline for service providers to complete their submission by October 4th, 2024. So the project can't proceed without having service providers validate the data first. So it'll go through many phases, and we'll keep everybody updated as this continues to be available. Really excited for this. If you think about what it would mean for a family member or individual to do their own research in a portal of where they can get services in a more user-friendly way. So we're excited for that. AB 1147. I removed some of the other items that you saw last month. They're still there. The big one that we're focused on is that Public Records Act to regional centers being subjected that we have not been previously because we're not a state agency. We're considered a nonprofit. Yet the argument there is that we're carrying out the work of the state. So therefore increased access. So we're waiting to see what's happening. We'll know in the next 5 days or less if the governor approves or vetoes. So we're on standby for this particular bill. We would have a year of January 1st, 2026, a little bit more if it goes live. I believe Senate Bill 1281 is still being considered by the governor. You'll see the criteria here. This is also from last month. I didn't take it out because I wanted to keep it on your radar, which is really specific to making SDP a little bit easier for families on the enrollment process and wanting the process to be more person-centered and less barriers. So there's a little vague when you look at the language, so we'll probably get some more data there if that passes. And there was a bill floating around for the department to hire a deputy director of self-determination, and the governor vetoed that bill last Friday. So that won't be moving forward this year. Social rec and camp, we have a directive out there as regional centers. Social rec, camp, non-medical therapy is very important to our community, very important to our legislators. Our legislators are tracking the restoration very carefully. There was a lot of testimony that regional centers weren't vendoring these programs, weren't making them available. So there was a lot of testimony, and it's really on the radar of our legislators who ask very specific questions. So there's been a lot of work done to help make this easier for families. And if there's any barriers to have points of contact. So we've had to comply with parts of this. We've already completed our process for the contacts for our regional center, which will be our 3 associate directors and Daniela, the director of client services. So we've completed part 1 of the directive already. And you'll see some other timelines we have. January 1st, it's going to be a very busy New Year's for us. January 1st, 2025, looking at the availability of vendors and expediting vendorization. So Lucina and I will be working on that. And then there's some trainings that have to occur March of next year, very specific trainings for our staff. And then we also have to make our curriculum and materials that we develop available to the public on our website. So you're going to see a lot of kind of work unfolding in these areas between now and through the end of March that all 21 regional centers will have to to complete. Just a reminder and shout out for direct support for professionals. I know we do blast and we do emails. The governor did a recognition, which I appreciate. I just can't understate enough that I truly believe our system would not operate and there would be no Lanterman Act if we didn't have direct support staff doing the work on the front lines. And so I just want to extend our gratitude and appreciation and recognition, not only through September 8th to the 14th, but every day, because we can have regional center staff put together plans with individuals that we serve and families, but if nobody's there to implement, then we don't have a plan. And so deep respect on behalf of the provider community. I'm very proud of our provider community for the work that's being done and how they work with such grace and diligence with not the most resources and not the most fiscal incentivizing resources and challenges that our providers have. So I'm pleased to see that we have an advocacy group that we can support. And just wanted to give a shout out publicly at our board meeting for every DSP and everybody who supports the work in the community to implement the work and partner with us. September is Deaf Awareness Month. Just want to put some recognition for the work. The department is using the terms deaf, hard of hearing, and deaf blind. So this is the department language that they're trying to have regional centers use because there's so many variations of terms. So this is from the department. I want to recognize the work being done. I want to recognize the work that we've been doing for our regional center to support our communities that we serve. We have a specialist, and not only do we have a specialist, but the department has a specialist. And so in the PowerPoint, you can click, you can learn about Lisa Gonzalez, who is the deaf and hard of hearing specialist for the state, supporting 21 regional centers. She's got a very unique background and skill in this area. So we're happy to see that. And there's also a link of resources available. So just want to do our part as a regional center to make sure that we're promoting and getting information out for our communities and individuals served. This Saturday is a busy day for us as well at the regional center. We are having our very first new parent family member orientation. I believe we have over 70 families confirmed the last I heard last week, so we could have some more. So we should have some good attendance. And this is an orientation that will be to welcome people who, family members who are new to our regional center, get to meet staff, get to learn about what we do, get contact information, learn about our strategic plan, build relationships, network, just to set people up to be successful when they come to Sandgate Pomona Regional Center. And I get the privilege of doing an introduction welcome with our board president, Julie Chetney, for the orientation. So I appreciate you coming out on a Saturday, Julie. And I'm excited to see the feedback we get from this event. It's our pilot to see what families and individuals think about it. And if it's helpful and effective for the work being done is what we want. Even if at minimum, somebody walks away from this orientation knowing that our organization has a commitment and a goal to respond to the community within 24 hours or the next business day, that they can leave there knowing that we have a team dedicated called our on-duty team, that if they're not getting through, there's a phone number and email to get to hold of somebody until there's something resolved there. So little things like that. So we're not waiting months or years to go by for individuals to say, I didn't know about that. Your regional center never told me, but I didn't know who the director was. I didn't know who to contact. So we're trying to be really thoughtful in this approach, and the networking we think is important too. So we're excited for that for this Saturday. My coffee continues. October 22nd is my next one. And Willinette, I believe this is going to be in La Puente at the Roland Center at that location coming up. And then I have two other ones in October as well after that. So it's going to be a lot of coffee. So if you see me out there on a lot of coffee, know that we're building a lot of relationships out there and really getting out to the community for these programs, including the SELPA for San Gabriel East Valley, I believe. almost done here. Last three slides. Staffing. We are at 435 in a part-time position. So we continue to grow tremendously for our authorized positions. And you see our recruiting here for service coordinators and psychologists, network administrator for our IT department, our SDP support specialist, our training specialist. We have a growth position in our early intervention unit. Those units are growing at a very fast rate because we have to achieve a 1-to-40 ratio, meaning one service coordinator to 40 individuals. And in order to keep up with that growth, we have to keep bringing on additional staff. And then we have to also look at the leadership to support all of the incoming staff. So very, very busy in that unit. And then for our community services, our QA specialist, and then you see some positions that have been filled and that will be starting in September. We are currently serving 17,328 individuals. I want the board to be aware of how many intakes that we're doing a month at record numbers that we have not typically seen before, and it's been maintaining at a very steady rate. For birth through 3 early start, we received 253 new referrals for 1 month from August 1st through August 31st, 253. Those numbers are huge. So shout out to our admissions intake team. They're just doing significant work to get individuals into our system. Lanterman, you see that we got 46 new referrals. So there's some data there of how many people have become eligible. But those are all individuals that need to be assessed. And just as a reminder, the birth through 3, those new referrals, those 253 new referrals, we have a 45-day timeline that we have to achieve this by. It's a very expedited federal timeline that we have for early intervention because every moment matters. So just wanted to thank our teams for supporting our growth. And our last slide here, I think I went a little over, Julie, so I apologize. I just had a lot of stuff tonight. Self-determination. We crossed our 200 mark officially as of August 31st. So we have 202 individuals in SDP, which is fantastic. And we got 2 big areas coming up on SDP. One is on Friday, October, sorry, my screen is blocking it here. Friday, October 18th, which is a Friday. If you're in self-determination with us at San Gabriel Pomona, if families are being asked to come to a special workshop to learn about SDP and to network and have a full event dedicated to our individuals that we serve. It'll be at the La Meridian, if I've seen that correctly, in a hotel. And then in November, there is a statewide conference being hosted by Disability Voices United. That conference is on November 8th. The California Endowment in Los Angeles. And Julie and I wanted to highlight for the board this evening the importance and the partnerships of how critical it is for our association, ARCA, to support statewide initiatives and community-based work. And as such, the ARCA Board of Directors, in collective support with all regional centers, it was determined that ARCA would provide a $10,000 sponsorship towards the event for DVU's SDP conference. Disability Voices United, which is, I think, a really good partnership. And that $10,000 sponsorship in turn gives ARCA a seat as part of a panel and to be able to network and have that perspective there as well. So lots of work happening across the state. And that concludes my executive director report for this evening.
Thank you, Jesse. Anybody have any questions for Jesse? I just realized the governor only has 5 days to action at AB 1147. So that tells you how quickly time is flying by. So we'll know then what happens. Okay, thank you. We're gonna move on to any other board and community announcements. And I know that we have at least one person who wants to say a little something.
Would be me. Thank you. My internet, I guess, is a little unstable. So if I freeze up, then I freeze up. But I'll make it very quick. So I just wanted to comment on two events. The first one was the vendor fair that the center hosted, and I had an opportunity to sit and with Yvonne and some of the other folks to recruit people for our boards and committees. And I have to say, it was probably one of the most incredible opportunities that I've had. And I want to share just a really short story with some of you, which will touch your heart, but it'll also make you realize why you do this and why we are here. So there was an individual, this gentleman came in, and he had lost his wife a year before, and he was lost. His wife took care of everything, and his daughter was probably about 30 years old, and he looked so defeated when he first came in. And so here I am trying to recruit him for the board, and I'm realizing no, I need to not do that. I need to get you inside. So he went inside, and I told him, I said, if you don't find what you're looking for, please come back and tell me, and I will put you in touch with whoever you need help with. He came back at the end of the day a completely different man. He found the help he needed. And he couldn't have been more grateful. And one of the things he did make a point to come say to me was to extend his gratitude to this board and to the regional center. And so I wanted to make sure tonight that I shared that with all of you, from staff to vendors to the board to everyone, is that is a perfect example of why we do what we do, why we're in this business, and who you never know who you're going to have an impact on. So I just wanted to share that with all of you. So, and we did get rid of, I don't remember how many we had, but we ended up getting rid of I shouldn't say getting rid of, we ended up signing up or handing out at least over 25, I think, board applications. So that was great. The staff was amazing. Jesse, I just want to tell you that there were quite a few, not just the executive staff, but there were quite a few service coordinators that actually stopped by and asked about how they can share with their clients the information. And so that was really encouraging to see, to know that, and some of them were new, they were maybe 6 months in. And so that was really enlightening, very heartwarming that they were thinking about that. And so, so that was, some kudos. I want to make sure I give a shout out to everybody on that. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing, Bill and I had the opportunity to participate in the golf tournament again this year. This is our second year. So if you play golf, you guys need to get out there. And Yvonne and the staff and everybody did a phenomenal job. Yes, we played. It was 107 degrees. We were melting. But nevertheless, the staff from beginning to end was amazing. Okay, I'm not going to lie. Winning a prize was actually icing on the cake for me. If I didn't say it, I know somebody else would. But that was fun. It was great to see Julie there, and I know the staff was absolutely excited to see board members and committee people attend. And so if you have an opportunity to go learn how to play golf, to play, hopefully it won't be 100 degrees. The course is amazing, but Yvonne and her staff and everybody just did a fantastic job. So, so those are just two things I wanted to share, and I hope to see some of you on the golf course next year. So, thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Trish. Gosh, it's nice to hear that story that you have from the vendor fair. That's really amazing. I hadn't heard that one before, and I share your admiration for everything that the staff and the foundation did for the golf scramble on what was an insanely hot day. My goodness gracious. So, all right. Thank you so much, everybody. Oh, next month, October, is one of our trainings. And so we'll have that with a couple of little action items, but mainly we'll be focusing on our training. And it is it is one of our required trainings by DDS, but I do believe that we make it incredibly engaging and enlightening. So linguistic and cultural competency, understanding diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we also go over our whistleblower policies. So be on standby for that next month. And with that being said, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here tonight. And have a great evening.
Julie, I have one question.
Sure, go ahead.
What are we thinking about doing any trainings in regional center or not yet?
Gosh, you are so ahead of me, Preeti. Yes, in fact, the Strategic Development Committee right now, what we're doing is we're in the development phase of putting together a list of possible trainings that will then be sent out to all board and committee members.
Okay.
For your input. Remember, we do sort of that ranking.
Oh, yes.
Which one would you really like? Which one, put that one. And so we'll tabulate that. It is a requirement that we submit that to DDS. So you're just way too on top of the ball for me, Preeti. And so it's definitely coming. And there will always be like a write-in option, open-ended for anything that anyone feels is really, really important to be voiced that isn't perhaps on the original list.
Okay.
Okay. But listen, if you have any ideas, please just send me an email because the committee is going to be looking at that over the next week or so.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you know where to find me.
Yes, I know where to find you.
All right. So good question. Thank you. All right, everybody. So good to see everyone. Have a great rest of your evening and a great week.